It is 7:50 a.m. at Naval Air Station North Island. The fleet readiness room holds a clean hush. Bright with early light on polished floors and the faint bite of coffee, khaki shirts settle at tables while ribbons and name tapes sit straight. Pens aligned beside notebooks. The projectors hum and cast the Pacific across a GCCS M operational map that breathes with quiet data. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves enters with the clipped rhythm of inspections, eyes scanning collars, shoes, and posture. His presence tightens the air as checklists stiffen and small adjustments ripple down the rows. No one salutes and no one wears a cover indoors. The room answers him with silence that sounds like discipline. At the far end sits Vice Admiral Alexandra Pierce in a dark blazer. CAC badge clipped with the name A. Pierce. She keeps her gaze on the operational picture, tracing a modest seam along a relay line as if testing a thread, then noting it in a small margin. Captain Melissa Grant notices the stillness that is not hesitation but control and files away her first impression. Lieutenant Evan Brooks slides a folder of updates across the table as Pierce turns a page, marks a time code, and returns the packet without a word. The hum of the projectors settles back in, and the room breathes with procedure while the map holds its blue, waiting for a call to break the surface. Captain Melissa Grant lets the room speak before anyone does. The projectors give a low, steady hum as the GCCS M maritime picture washes the walls in blue. Pens tap, shoulders shift, and a few eyes skate toward the door each time a hinge squeaks. No salutes. No covers indoors. Only quiet posture and clipped movements that try not to rustle the air. She reads the tells. One lieutenant fidgets with a pen cap while a department head sits locked in, elbows off the table, chin level. A pair of junior officers share a low comment that sounds like admin talk about the woman in the blazer at the end of the table. Grant follows their glance and settles on the CAC badge that reads A. Pierce, then returns to the map to keep the picture whole. Lieutenant Evan Brooks slides a folder of updates along the polished surface, and it stops at Pierce with a soft scrape. Pierce scans pages without hurry, then pauses on a communications log where a date and route do not make clean sense for COMSEC practice. Her pen lands a small mark beside a path that suggests a legacy relay that never met its retirement window, a gap that could breed stale keymat rotation. She turns the page, keeps the EHF SATCOM note in mind, and never breaks the room's rhythm. Grant watches the small economy of motion and revises her first read. This is not distracted. It is deliberate. Link 16 gets a glance from a watchstander and stays green, while Pierce keeps her eyes on the quiet seam she found. Grant decides to keep watching as the brief moves on. The question comes from the far end of the table when a Master Chief asks why an old communications line still shows active in the network log. The room holds steady light and the quiet hum of projectors as the Pacific fills the wall through the GCCS M operational picture. Officers remain seated with notebooks open. No salutes and no headgear indoors. Only the small discipline of posture and pens. Lieutenant Evan Brooks taps a key and brings the log forward so everyone can see the line that should not be there. Alexandra Pierce answers in a level voice that never rises above the machines. She notes that the legacy relay was compromised 2 years earlier and should have been retired and rekeyed on schedule under COMSEC policy with Type 1 keymat rotation handled by OTAR. She adds that Link 16 remains stable and EHF SATCOM paths are unaffected, then traces a finger along the map to show how a deprecated path can invite drift if left in place. It is not a speech and not scolding, only the quiet risk set down in clear terms that fit the room. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves tries a light joke and gets a few uneasy laughs that die in the air faster than they arrived. Captain Melissa Grant watches Pierce stay steady, pen resting on the margin. Cadence unbroken as checklists breathe back into motion. The tone moves from banter to attention, and the projector hum is suddenly the loudest thing in the space. Pierce places her pen beside a notepad, sets the folder square, and returns to listening without another word. The room jumps as a deep tone rolls through the brief, and consoles buzz in a hard chorus. Screens flare with a communications integrity event banner, while watchstanders pivot to procedure without wasted motion. No salutes and no covers indoors. Only steady hands and clipped acknowledgments as checklists open. The GCCS-M operational picture steadies on the wall like a heartbeat. Link 16. Verification begins with short readbacks as MIDS terminals report status green or pending. A COMSEC confirms EHF SATCOM paths, while another pulls the last OTAR record for Type 1 keymat and reads the timestamp. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves orders full system checks and a clean log of times. Voices layer across the room, but the cadence stays inside the rails. Alexandra Pierce stands and studies the map as if listening for a seam in the noise. Her finger traces open water between two relay nodes and stops where the display shows a faint mismatch. She explains that this is not an active hack, but a decay that started on a legacy path that was never retired. With overdue keymat rotation, allowing the fault to echo across unsecured nodes. Captain Melissa Grant tracks the logic, while Lieutenant Evan Brooks feeds confirmations from the consoles. Graves presses for how Pierce can state it so fast, and she answers that she authored the original encryption profile before it was altered in deployment. The chatter fades, and the projector hum comes forward until it feels like the only sound in the room. Checklists realign and callouts shorten as the operators take the next steps in order. Pierce returns her focus to the map, and the room follows her gaze. The operations center settles into low light after 10:20 p.m. Consoles paint the room in soft blue, and the cooling fans hold a steady hum. Lieutenant Evan Brooks watches a thin data trickle ride, a legacy relay in the log, and does not like the timing. He calls Commander Derek Lang to the station and pulls the readout to the main display. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves arrives with clipped footsteps and an edge in his voice, asking why the watch is stirring the floor at this hour. No salutes and no covers indoors. Only straight backs and clear replies as Brooks briefs what he saw. Alexandra Pierce steps in wearing a blazer with a CAC badge and walks to the main console without pause. She scans the GCCS-M picture, then speaks calmly about action and timing. Execute OTAR within 72 hours across affected nodes. Retire the legacy path. Rekey Type 1 keymat. Isolate the suspect channel. And route current traffic through EHF SATCOM while verifying Link 16 health on the MIDS terminals. Graves pushes for status and risks, and Pierce answers that leadership means acting with the full picture and not waiting for the fault to grow. Her tone stays even, and the checklist begins to move. Commander Lang and Lieutenant Brooks read back tasks, log times, and confirm custody for key material per COMSEC. A watchstander updates the board, while another records call signs and routes. The room shifts from tension to order as voices settle into short callouts that fit the tempo. Pierce monitors the operational picture in silence, hands still. While the center regains its rhythm, it is 2:30 a.m. when the alert hits the board and the operations center snaps to a higher gear. Consoles flag a distress call from the MV Liberty Star near Okinawa, and the room tightens into checklist rhythm. Alexandra Pierce confirms coordinates through EHF SATCOM. Eyes steady on the GCCS-M display as tracks update. No salutes and no headgear indoors. Only short acknowledgments as watchstanders clear their stations. Pierce moves to task the forward deployed under 7th Fleet Authority with clean, simple orders. P-8A Poseidon launches for wide-area ISR to build the maritime picture. An MH-60S detachment takes primary search and rescue from the nearest ship or from Kadena Air Base, with an MH-60R available to cover surface or subsurface concerns if the situation shifts. An MQ-4C Triton goes on station to expand the search box, and feed sensor returns into the common operational picture. Commander Derek Lang coordinates communications and reads the Frago, while Lieutenant Evan Brooks handles telemetry and readbacks. Pierce states that all traffic routes through closed paths. The legacy relay is sealed. OTAR for Type 1 key material is in progress, and Link 16 nets remain stable on MIDS terminals. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves asks for more confirmation, and Pierce replies that delay risks lives. Her tone level and professional, Times are logged, call signs recorded, and custody notes entered without drama. Status lights step green across the board as aircraft spin up and the roar of the room fades into precise voices. The COP fills with steady tracks while the team locks into practiced cadence. TACON for search and rescue execution is acknowledged under theater authority. Debate falls away and the watch leans forward into action. The room slides from noise to precision as orders start to flow cleanly. GCCSM refreshes the common operational picture in real time, and the wall breathes with steady blue. The P-8A feed sharpens contacts and removes jitter while MQ-4C stretches the search box along the edges. No one salutes and no one wears a cover indoors. Only straight backs and quiet hands at the consoles. Commander Derek Lang reads a checklist with clipped cadence and assigns confirmations without wasted words. Times are logged in ink while watchstanders tap acknowledgments that match the sheet. Lieutenant Evan Brooks reports OTAR complete. Type 1 keymat good. And Link 16 stable with MIDS terminals green across the board. Pens move. Heads nod once, and the rhythm settles into place. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves watches the shift as operators follow Alexandra Pierce because each instruction matches SOP and fits in a single, clean sentence. She stands at the map and adjusts only what the picture needs. A route here. A filter there. A search box nudged to meet the pattern. Readbacks are crisp. Callouts stay short. And keystrokes land in even tempo. The projector hum returns to the front of the soundscape, and the room breathes as one team. It is 6:45 a.m. when pale light reaches the blinds and the floor feels new again. The team closes the rescue report that lists 4 civilians saved near Okinawa. The live feed from Kadena Air Base shows an MH-60S on the ramp with rotors nearly still, while status lines populate in the GCCS-M common operational picture. Coffee cools at the edge of consoles as watchstanders check the last entries and clear their notes. A system prompt asks for authorization to issue a theater-wide Frago and update guidance across 7th Fleet networks. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves enters his local command credentials, and the console returns access denied for authority at theater level. No salutes and no headgear indoors. Only straight backs and steady hands as the room waits. EHF SATCOM routing reads healthy, and COMSEC compliance remains steady on the board. Alexandra Pierce steps forward in civilian business attire with a CAC and a small token that fits her palm. She authenticates with multi-factor, and the banner shifts to access granted that displays Commander. U. In 9. 7th Fleet. Commander Derek Lang prepares readbacks, while Lieutenant Evan Brooks reads the new status quietly and logs the time. Captain Melissa Grant notes a small change in posture as operators move to the next task without being told. Pierce speaks in measured terms and directs the room to resume communications. Publish the follow-up, and close out the legacy path. She confirms that TACON and OPCON lines are understood for the actions to follow and that reporting flows cleanly into the COP. The projector hum settles over a silent floor as eyes return to the map. Doubt fades to respect, while the picture steadies and the watch leans into the work. The room settles without noise. No applause and no theatrics. Only chairs stilling and eyes forward. Officers hold attention in their seats and wait for direction. No salutes and no headgear indoors. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves steps forward, centers himself, and delivers a concise report that covers actions taken and current system status. Professional and free of excuses. The GCCS-M display holds steady light as watchstanders keep hands near keyboards and breathe in the quiet. Vice Admiral Alexandra Pierce listens without interruption and gives a short set of priorities that fit the work at hand. Responsibility over display. Continued COMSEC discipline. Timely follow-through on the Frago. Each point lands with simple clarity. Captain Melissa Grant notes the change as the tone moves toward quiet efficiency that feels earned. Link 16 shows green. EHF SATCOM routing is confirmed, and the COP updates without clutter. Commander Derek Lang posts the updated checklist, assigns names, and logs times with neat handwriting, while readbacks stay crisp. Lieutenant Evan Brooks confirms custody of Type 1 key material and the closed status of the retired path. Then enters the record in the watch log. OTAR remains in progress on schedule, and operators capture each timestamp without prompting. Respect replaces noise as the projector hum returns. The team moves on task without fanfare, and the floor feels ready for whatever comes next. It is 6:45 a.m. on the live feed from Kadena Air Base. An MH-60S rests on the ramp, with rotors slowing to a lazy blur, while crew secure litters and strap down gear from the rescue near Okinawa. Early light slides across wet concrete and catches the crisp motion of ground hand signals. The camera holds steady on a SAR detachment standing down with quiet, practiced movements. Back at Naval Air Station North Island, Vice Admiral Alexandra Pierce remains in the Maritime Operations Center, not in a flight suit and not on a pad. She reviews post-mission checklists, COMSEC logs, and the GCCS M Common Operational Picture, where an updated entry confirms the retired path is closed. She walks each console for short status, asking for EHF SATCOM routing, Link 16 health, and custody records for Type 1 key material. No salutes and no headgear indoors. Only clean readbacks and the soft hiss of cooling fans. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves waits in the corridor and begins an apology that never turns into ceremony. Pierce stops him with a brief, steady reminder that leadership means acting with a full picture and closing gaps fast, then returns to the floor without pause. Outside the building, Lieutenant Evan Brooks stands near a fueling truck and watches the last updates roll into the log, while the Kadena feed fades to a quiet static frame. He understands why quiet competence leads, and he can feel the base settle into a new rhythm built on simple checklists, clear custody, and a map that finally holds still. Several weeks later, Naval Air Station North Island feels different in small, honest ways. Morning briefs start on time and end with clear tasking that sends people moving before chairs cool. Checklists drive action across maintenance, operations, and intel. And the rhythm carries from the first coffee to the last log entry. No salutes and no headgear indoors. Only steady posture, short readbacks, and pens that land where they should. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves has changed his habits, and it shows. He walks the flight line with a quiet pace, reviews maintenance logs with crew chiefs, and listens more than he speaks in updates. When a young ensign hesitates, he invites the point to land and lets the room hold the silence. The tone is calm and professional, and the work feels owned by the team. Vice Admiral Alexandra Pierce has signed an advisory that standardizes COMSEC compliance across the base. The OTAR schedule for Type 1 key material is posted and followed. Legacy relays are retired on time, and reporting flows cleanly into the GCCS M Common Operational Picture. Rear Admiral Elaine Porter arrives from Pacific Fleet for a review and finds Link 16 stable. EHF SATCOM routing confirmed, and keymat rotation on the mark. The COP looks tidy, with accurate tracks and minimal clutter. Indoors, the conduct stays correct, and the process does not need a push. Times are logged without prompting. Custody checks happen as a matter of habit, and watchstanders call back tasks in simple sentences. The halls feel lighter because the work is clear and the path is known. The base moves with purpose instead of posture, and the lesson sits in the muscle memory rather than on a poster. Several weeks later, the same briefing room holds a quiet ceremony that feels like a steady breath. The GCCS M Common Operational Picture sits paused on the wall, and the chairs are set close with a small group of watchstanders. Vice Admiral Alexandra Pierce presides with calm focus, and the room answers with stillness. No headgear and no casual chatter. Only polished shoes and hands folded at rest. Lieutenant Evan Brooks steps forward and centers his weight as the citation is read in a clean voice. Pierce pins a Navy and Marine Corps Commendation Medal on his chest for spotting the legacy relay issue and executing COMSEC procedures with discipline. Rear Admiral Nolan Graves stands at attention and renders a salute for the formal moment. correct indoors for a ceremony, then takes a measured step back. The air holds pride without noise. A yeoman notes the time in the logbook and records the names of witnesses with neat lines. Custody confirmation for Type 1 key material is entered as part of the record keeping because process matters most when the room is quiet. The framed photo that will hang later shows Pierce at the Maritime Operations Center with the Pacific map behind her. It is a simple image that feels like a promise rather than a pose. Captain Melissa Grant watches how the team takes pride in steps, not show. Short readbacks and clean signatures move the paperwork to completion, and the watch flows back to work. The award marks a habit and not a headline. The base runs on trust, clean checklists, and quiet accountability. And the lesson sits in the way people stand and the way they return to their stations. This story lands because the reveal is real and specific. When the credential shows Commander, U.S.O., 7th Fleet, the twist feels earned rather than flashy. Viewers recognize a billet they can look up, and the room stops because authority is verified by process. The tone stays human and calm, which invites people who want inspiration without noise. Trust grows from accurate blocks that fit together on the screen. P-8A covers long-range ISR. MH-60S handles primary SAR. And MQ-4C Triton keeps watch high above. Feeding the GCCS M common operational picture. COMSEC language stays steady with Type 1 key material. OTAR scheduling. Link 16 stability. And EHF SATCOM routing that feels routine rather than magical. No salutes or headgear indoors unless a ceremony is underway, which signals respect for real practice. The pacing moves from tension to order as concise readbacks and log times create a clean rhythm. Small actions like custody checks, checklist, initials, and a quiet nod from the watch give the piece a heartbeat. The culture shifts because someone chooses to listen, then acts with the full picture, and the base follows that calm lead. Share where you are watching from and the moment when you felt the shift from noise to respect. So the lesson travels farther. Keep visuals gentle and true to process. Let the map transition from red to green while console chimes mark each verification. Use brief on-screen confirmations that mirror real procedures and avoid flashy overlays. The story breathes when screens, hands, and checklists carry the weight. Open with the hook from 0 to 20 seconds as Rear Admiral Nolan Graves lets a remark land and the room shifts in a small ripple. A soft console tone rises under the GCCSM hum and eyes cut toward the map. The camera holds posture, hands, and pens. Keep the language tight and let the sound carry the tension. From 20 to 90 seconds. Build through observation. Captain Melissa Grant watches Alexandra Pierce in civilian business attire review updates and place a firm mark on a communications log. The GCCSM maritime picture breathes quietly while side chatter fades. Keep indoor conduct correct, with no salutes or headgear, and let the focus sharpen. From 90 to 210 seconds. Move into crisis as consoles flag a communications integrity event. Watchstanders verify link 16 health. Check MIDS terminals. Confirm EHF SATCOM paths. And review OTAR status for Type 1 key material. Pierce identifies decay from a legacy relay and points the team toward the seam. Readbacks stay short and times get logged. From 210 to 330 seconds. Show takeover by competence. Pierce directs OTAR within 72 hours. Retires the path. Isolates the channel. And routes traffic through closed links. Commander Derek Lang and Lieutenant Evan Brooks execute checklists with calm cadence. The room slides from noise to order. From 330 to 450 seconds. Shift to forward deployed search and rescue. A P-8A Poseidon launches for wide area ISR. An MH-60S is assigned for rescue. An MH-60R stands by. And an MQ-4C Triton expands the search box into the common operational picture. Tracks stabilize and the pattern firms up. The pace is urgent but disciplined. from 450 to 540 seconds. Deliver the reveal as Graves receives access denied. Pierce authenticates with her CAC and gains access granted as commander. U. ESEC, 7th Fleet, from 540 to 630 seconds. Resolve with concise priorities and respect over spectacle. Then close with a gentle call to action. Let confidence stay quiet while the projector hum guides the final beat.